The Hidden Valley. In a quiet valley, hidden between soft, rolling mountains and vast expanses of green meadows, a river meandered gently, as if it had all the time in the world. The air smelled sweetly of wildflowers and damp earth, carrying a calm that seemed to touch everything it passed. The sky above shifted from soft gold of dawn to the gentle blues of midday, finally embracing the deep indigo of twilight, and the stars began to appear slowly, one by one, like tiny sparks scattered across a velvet blanket. This valley was not a place known to many, and perhaps that was why it held a certain magic. Every rock, every tree, and every blade of grass seemed to have its own story, whispering quietly to those who would listen. And among these creatures there lived a fox named Zarif. Zarif's fur was bright red, glowing softly in the morning sun, with white accents on his chest, muzzle, and tail tip. His eyes were a deep amber, full of curiosity and wisdom beyond his years. Unlike other foxes who spent their days hunting or playing, Zarif wandered the valley, observing everything. He listened to the songs of the birds, the rustle of the leaves, the whispers of the river, and even the silent language of the rocks. It was said that anyone who spoke with Zarif would leave with a sense of calm and understanding, as if their worries had been washed away by the river itself. One morning, as the first rays of sunlight filtered through the tall trees, casting long shadows on the soft moss beneath, Zarif wandered along the riverbank. The water moved slowly, reflecting the colors of the sky, shimmering in hues of gold and pink. He paused to watch a dragonfly skim across the surface, its wings catching the light like a tiny jewel. The gentle ripples of the water seemed to carry messages, and Zarif often believed that the river spoke to those who knew how to listen. On this particular morning, Zarif noticed a small figure perched on a low branch near the river. It was a little owl, its feathers fluffed and eyes wide, staring at the river as if searching for answers in its endless flow. The owl's name was unknown to most creatures, for it had only recently arrived in the valley, drawn by its quiet magic. There was a certain heaviness in its gaze, a weight of uncertainty that Zarif could feel even from a distance. He approached slowly, his paws making barely a sound on the soft earth, and sat a short distance away. "Good morning, little one," Zarif said softly. His voice was calm and warm, carrying no judgment, only curiosity and kindness. "You seem troubled. What weighs on your heart?" The owl blinked slowly and sighed, a soft, almost musical sound. "I feel lost," it whispered. "I fly through the night, searching for the stars, but I cannot find my direction. Sometimes I wonder if I am meant to wander forever, without a path or a purpose." Zarif nodded, his eyes reflecting the morning light. He said, "I understand. Many feel that way when the world seems too vast, when the sky stretches endlessly and the river flows without end. But have you noticed how the river moves?" He gestured to the calm water beside them. "It does not rush. It does not resist. Every stone, every curve, every tree along its path shapes its journey, but it does not fight its course. It simply flows, and in doing so, it reaches its destination naturally. Perhaps your flight can learn from the river." The owl looked down at the water, observing the gentle current. For a moment, it was silent, letting Zarif's words sink in. The river seemed to murmur softly in agreement, carrying the wisdom of countless years, of storms weathered and calm days cherished alike. "But how do I know where to go?" the owl asked. "How do I trust that my wings will take me where I need to be?" Zarif tilted his head thoughtfully. "Trust is not found in knowing the end, but in embracing the journey. Each flap of your wings, each turn of your flight brings you closer to understanding. You may not see the destination yet, but that is no reason to stop moving. The river does not know every rock or bend before it arrives. It flows, and it is enough." The owl remained silent, listening to the sound of the water, feeling its slow rhythm. It began to realize that rushing or forcing its path was unnecessary. Life, like the river, could be gentle and patient. Even uncertainty could hold a kind of peace if one simply allowed it to exist. As the sun rose higher, painting the valley in golden light, Zarif continued walking along the riverbank, his steps slow and deliberate. He noticed the tiny details often overlooked: a cluster of wildflowers bowing under the weight of morning dew, a family of ducks gliding quietly across a reflective pond, and the gentle rustling of the trees, which sounded almost like a conversation among old friends. The owl followed him at a distance, wings tucked and eyes wide, absorbing the calm energy that seemed to emanate from Zarif. For the first time in many nights, it did not feel lost. There was a rhythm to the valley, a natural flow to everything that lived and moved within it. And though the owl could not yet see its path, it began to understand that patience and presence were as important as direction. Later that day, as clouds drifted lazily across the sky, Zarif found a small clearing where sunlight poured in like liquid gold. He sat down and closed his eyes for a moment, breathing in the scent of the earth and the river. The owl perched nearby, and for a long while there was only silence, the kind that speaks volumes when one truly listens. In that quiet, the valley seemed to teach a simple but profound truth: that every being, no matter how small or uncertain, has a place in the world. That each moment, no matter how ordinary it may seem, carries lessons for those who are willing to pay attention. And that life, with all its twists, turns, and mysteries, is a journey best traveled with an open heart and a gentle spirit. As the day faded into evening, the river glowed under the first light of the stars, and the owl felt a new calmness settle within. It understood, at last, that its flight did not need to be perfect, nor its destination fully known. It only needed to move, to trust, and to flow, just as the river had always done. And so, in the hidden valley, under the soft glow of the moon and the quiet watch of the mountains, a fox and a little owl shared the first lesson of many to come, that peace is found not in certainty, but in the gentle acceptance of life as it unfolds. And in that moment, the valley seemed to breathe with them, carrying their calmness in every rustling leaf, every ripple of water, and every flicker of distant starlight. As twilight deepened over the hidden valley, the stars began to shimmer more clearly, their soft light dancing across the gentle ripples of the river. The air cooled, carrying with it the delicate scent of night-blooming flowers and the earthy aroma of the soil. The owl, who had perched quietly beside Zarif all afternoon, felt a subtle stirring within its chest, a quiet curiosity that mingled with the newfound calm Zarif had inspired. For many nights, the owl had flown without purpose, chasing distant lights in the sky, often returning tired and still without clarity. But now, besides Zarif, it realized that the valley itself offered guidance. It was not in rushing through the air or forcing itself toward a distant star. It was in noticing the gentle flow of life, observing the quiet harmony of the world, and trusting that its wings, patient and strong, would carry it where it needed to go. "Tell me, Zarif," the owl said softly, "how do I learn to trust my own path when the winds shift so suddenly, when darkness surrounds me and the stars seem so far?" Zarif's amber eyes reflected the starlight as he considered the question. "The winds will always change, little one," he said. "The night may be dark, and the stars may hide behind clouds. Yet even in uncertainty, there is a rhythm to follow. Watch the river. Notice how it moves despite obstacles, flowing around stones and fallen branches, not resisting, but bending with grace. Your path is like the river, sometimes hidden, sometimes illuminated, but always moving forward." The owl tilted its head, pondering the words. It watched the water closely, noticing how the current curved gently around each rock, embracing every small ripple and disturbance without anger or hurry. For the first time, it understood that movement itself could be the teacher, that life's wisdom often came not from knowing every turn ahead, but from flowing with patience and awareness. Night deepened further, and the first cool breeze of evening swept across the valley. Fireflies began to flicker softly among the grasses and the low branches, their gentle glow reflecting in the river like a constellation mirrored on the earth. The owl spread its wings for the first time that night, gliding quietly above the meadow. Each wingbeat was measured, deliberate, echoing Zarif's lesson about presence and awareness. Below, the fox followed, walking beside the riverbank, silent and observing, his senses attuned to every sound, every movement. "Feel the air beneath your wings," Zarif called softly. "It will guide you if you remain calm. Your heart knows the rhythm, even when your mind does not." The owl soared higher, letting the cool wind lift it, letting the quiet of the valley fill every corner of its being. As it rose, the owl noticed the delicate patterns of the trees below, their branches swaying like gentle dancers in the night. The moonlight illuminated the soft curve of the river, winding through the valley like a silver thread, connecting the meadow to the distant mountains. Every detail, every subtle movement whispered lessons of balance, patience, and grace. After a time, the owl returned to the clearing where Zarif waited, settling softly on a branch. "I think I understand," it said, its voice barely a whisper. "It is not about finding the exact direction immediately. It is about trusting the journey, noticing each step, or in my case, each wingbeat, and allowing myself to be present." Zarif nodded, a quiet smile gracing his muzzle. "Exactly. Life's clarity often comes not in grand revelations, but in gentle realizations, in the quiet moments when we notice, truly notice, the world around us. Even the smallest creatures carry wisdom, and even the simplest actions, like the flow of a river or the flutter of your wings, contain contain teachings if we are willing to see them. The owl remained perched, absorbing the peace of the moment. Below, the river continued its endless song, carrying whispers of old wisdom, of storms weathered and calm waters cherished. The stars above shimmered softly, mirroring the gentle flicker of fireflies around them. The valley seemed suspended in time, a sanctuary for those who sought reflection, a place where the heart could quiet its worries and the mind could breathe. As hours passed, Zarif spoke of other lessons the valley offered. He told the owl about the hare who had once raced through the meadows in constant haste, learning slowly that speed is not always the path to fulfillment. He spoke of the turtle who moved steadily, understanding that perseverance and patience are gifts often overlooked. Every story was a lesson, not through words alone, but through the rhythm of nature, the harmony of life, and the quiet beauty of observation. The owl listened intently, each story settling like a soft stone in its heart. It began to understand that the valley itself was a teacher. The rustling leaves spoke of resilience, the river of persistence, the stars of hope, and the gentle night breeze of renewal. Even the smallest sounds, like the whisper of wings or the quiet splash of water, held wisdom for those who would listen. By the time the moon had risen fully, bathing the valley in silver light, the owl felt a profound sense of peace. Its chest, once heavy with worry and doubt, now felt light, filled with trust and quiet determination. It understood that its journey was not about racing toward an unknown end, but about embracing each moment, each flight with mindfulness and presence. And as the night deepened, the hidden valley seemed to embrace the two companions. The fox sat quietly, tail curled around his paws, watching the river, while the owl rested on the branch above. Fireflies floated in lazy circles, the wind whispered through the trees, and the stars continued their silent vigil. Everything breathed in harmony, teaching the owl that calmness, trust, and awareness are the truest companions on any journey. In this stillness, the owl realized that it was no longer afraid of wandering. The night was not empty or vast. It was full of guidance, full of quiet teachers waiting to reveal their lessons to those who could hear. And in the heart of the valley, beneath the gentle gaze of the moon and the twinkling of countless stars, the owl understood that true wisdom comes from observing, trusting, and moving gently through life, one calm wing beat at a time. As the owl settled into the quiet of the valley, a gentle mist began to rise from the river, curling and twisting through the reeds like delicate threads of silver. The river, calm and patient, moved steadily, reflecting the soft light of the moon and the scattered stars above. Its surface shimmered with the colors of the night sky, deep blues interlaced with the faint glow of starlight. The owl perched on a branch, watching the water and listening to the soothing murmur of the current. It was a sound that seemed to carry secrets, ancient wisdom flowing silently, waiting for those who would pause and listen. Zarif padded slowly along the riverbank, paws making no sound on the damp earth. He stopped now and then to observe the small ripples or the way a leaf floated gently along with the current. "Do you see how the river moves?" he asked, his voice soft, almost blending with the gentle hum of the water. "It flows without resistance. Even when obstacles appear, a stone,
a fallen branch, or a bend in the river, it adapts. It does not fight. It bends, it curves, and it continues its path with grace. The owl's large eyes followed every word, taking in the motion of the water. The idea that the river did not force itself through challenges, but rather accepted and worked with them, resonated deeply. It was a lesson that seemed simple, yet profound. The river did not strive to control its path, yet it always reached its destination.
Many creatures believe that moving quickly or taking control of everything leads to success, Zarif continued. But true wisdom comes from understanding the flow of life. It comes from patience, from observing carefully, and from trusting that every moment has a purpose, even if that purpose is not yet clear. The owl tilted its head, feathers ruffling slightly in the evening breeze. "But what if I make mistakes?" it asked. "What if I take a wrong turn and lose my way?" Zarif's amber eyes softened, reflecting the moonlight. Mistakes are part of the journey. Even the river does not flow in a straight line. It curves. Sometimes it spills over its banks. Sometimes it slows and deepens. Yet every twist, every ripple, every obstacle shapes it, teaches it, and allows it to continue. You too will find that each mistake carries a lesson, and each lesson shapes the path forward. As the owl absorbed these words, it noticed a small fish swimming lazily near the surface of the river. Its movements were smooth and unhurried, each flick of its tail creating tiny ripples that spread outward, touching the surface of the water gently. The owl realized that even the smallest creatures were part of the river's flow, contributing to its rhythm, its song. There was harmony in this interconnectedness, a reminder that every being, no matter how small, has a role to play. Zarif crouched slightly, tail curling around his paws. He said, "Observe the river closely. Notice how it responds to the stones and the plants, how it adjusts yet never loses its purpose. Life works in the same way. We are all part of a greater rhythm, and when we learn to move with it rather than against it, we find balance." The owl watched as the river passed around a large stone, the water flowing gracefully on either side, meeting again just beyond the obstruction. It marveled at the elegance of the movement, the calm strength that allowed the river to persist without force or frustration. The lesson was clear. Obstacles do not have to stop us. They can teach us to adapt, to find new paths, to trust in the natural flow of life.
Hours passed, and the valley remained quiet. The stars reflected in the river's surface, and the fireflies danced above the water, casting tiny sparks of light that mirrored the constellations in the sky. The owl felt a deep sense of serenity, a realization that its path would unfold naturally if it moved with patience and awareness. It began to understand that the river's wisdom was not just in its movement, but in its stillness as well. There was power in calm, in observing, and in allowing the journey to unfold without unnecessary haste. Zarif continued speaking, his voice blending with the gentle sounds of the night. Sometimes the most important lessons are not taught through words, but through observation. Watch carefully, listen deeply, and you will understand. The river does not explain itself, yet its flow teaches everything we need to know about patience, resilience, and trust. The owl nodded slowly, letting the words sink in. It spread its wings again, this time gliding closer to the river's surface, feeling the cool air brush against its feathers. Each movement was deliberate, mindful, a small meditation in motion. The reflection of the stars in the water seemed to dance with each beat of its wings, and the owl felt a profound connection with the valley, the river, and the quiet wisdom of the natural world. Time seemed to stretch and bend, minutes melting into hours, yet the owl did not feel the passage of time. There was only presence, awareness, and a gentle, encompassing peace. Zarif watched, knowing that the owl was beginning to internalize the lessons of the river. Patience, acceptance, and the quiet strength that comes from moving harmoniously with life rather than struggling against it. As the night deepened, a gentle fog began to rise from the river, softening the outlines of the trees and the distant mountains. The owl perched quietly on a branch, its eyes reflecting the silvery light of the moon. It felt a sense of belonging it had never known before, a feeling that it was part of something much larger, something eternal. Every ripple of the river, every rustle of the leaves, and every flicker of a firefly seemed to speak directly to its heart. Zarif spoke once more, softly. "Remember, little one, the river teaches us that life is not a race, it is a journey. The obstacles you face are not meant to hinder you, but to guide you. Each moment, each breath, each windbeat carries meaning. Learn to flow, and you will discover the peace that exists within and around you." The owl closed its eyes briefly, taking in the gentle rhythm of the river, the whispering wind, and the soft glow of the moon. In the stillness, it realized that it had begun to trust itself, its wings, and the journey that lay ahead. It understood that the answers it had sought were not distant stars or faraway destinations. They were here, in the quiet observation of life, in the acceptance of the present moment, and in the patient flow of time. By the time dawn began to tinge the horizon with soft pinks and golds, the owl had learned to soar with calm, to glide with awareness, and to trust in the journey ahead. The river, ever patient and ever flowing, continued its eternal song, a reminder that life moves forward gently, gracefully, and without hurry.
In that hidden valley, beneath the first light of morning and the fading stars, the owl knew that it had discovered a profound truth, that wisdom is not always found in answers, but in the quiet, patient act of observing, trusting, and moving gently with the flow of life. And in that moment, the valley itself seemed to breathe alongside the two companions, a living testament to the harmony and peace that comes from learning to flow like the river. The valley bathed in the soft glow of dawn, with the first pale rays of sunlight slipping gently between the trees. The river shimmered like liquid silver, reflecting the soft pinks and golds of the morning sky. Mist lingered in the hollows, curling around the roots of trees and the edges of the water, adding a delicate veil of mystery to the quiet valley. Birds stirred softly, their songs tentative, blending with the gentle murmur of the flowing river. Everything seemed to awaken slowly, as though the world itself moved in a deliberate, thoughtful rhythm. The owl perched silently on a branch, watching the river below, its eyes wide and reflective. After the long night of listening to Zarif's words, observing the gentle flow of the river, and absorbing the stillness of the valley, the owl felt a stirring of courage deep within its chest. It had never felt so calm and yet so alive. The uncertainty that had once clouded its mind seemed to soften, replaced by a quiet clarity, a gentle trust in its own wings and in the rhythm of life. Zarif moved alongside the river, his steps slow and measured. "Today," he said softly, "you will take your first flight, guided not by fear, but by presence. You will move with awareness, observing the world around you and letting it guide you. Do not hurry, do not force, simply fly and notice." The owl took a deep breath, feeling the cool morning air fill its lungs, feathers ruffling in the soft breeze. For a moment, it hesitated, glancing at the distant mountains, the river that wound through the valley, and the soft glow of the rising sun. Then, slowly, it spread its wings, feeling the strength and balance of each feather. The wings caught the morning light, glowing with a warm, soft sheen as the owl lifted gently into the air. At first, its movements were cautious, deliberate, each beat of its wings measured. The river below seemed to guide it, a silver thread weaving through the landscape, reflecting light and teaching rhythm. The owl felt the wind beneath its wings, not as a force to fight, but as a current to follow, a gentle partner in its flight. Each movement became a meditation, each breath a reminder of presence, patience, and harmony. From above, the valley seemed to expand, revealing a world of quiet beauty that the owl had never fully noticed. The trees, the wildflowers, the gentle slopes of the hills and the winding river all carried a quiet energy, a harmony that had always existed but had been unnoticed amid worry and doubt. The owl's eyes traced the curves of the river, following its slow, unhurried path, and understood that its own flight could mirror the same rhythm, steady, flowing, and aware. Zarif watched from the riverbank, his amber eyes reflecting pride and calm. Do not try to reach the end. There is no need to measure distance or time. Notice the currents, feel the air, observe every detail. The journey itself is the lesson. The path will reveal itself if you allow it. The owl soared higher, gliding above the treetops, feeling the balance of its body and the strength of its wings. Each movement was deliberate, yet effortless, as though it had discovered a hidden harmony between itself and the world around it. The river below flowed steadily, reflecting the morning light, teaching without words, guiding without force. Every ripple, every reflection seemed to echo Zarif's teachings, reinforcing the idea that trust, patience, and observation were keys to understanding the journey ahead. As the owl circled above the valley, it noticed small details that it had never seen before. A family of deer stepping cautiously near the riverbank, their ears alert yet calm. A cluster of wildflowers bending gracefully under the morning mist. A dragonfly skimming the water, wings catching the sunlight in tiny flashes of brilliance. The owl realized that every living thing moved with its own rhythm, each contributing to the harmony of the valley. Every movement,
no matter how small, held meaning, and every being, no matter how quiet or fleeting, was part of the whole. With each gentle beat of its wings, the owl's heart felt lighter. It had learned that clarity was not about knowing every detail of the path ahead, but about trusting in the flow of life, observing carefully, and moving with awareness. Time seemed suspended. The owl glided over the river, dipping slightly to follow its curves, rising again to meet the gentle morning wind. The valley below hummed with quiet life, the rustling leaves, the soft chirping of birds, the gentle ripple of water, all blending into a symphony of calm. The owl felt itself as part of this rhythm, not separate from it, but moving in harmony, guided by both instinct and observation. After what felt like hours, yet only minutes, the owl returned to a branch near Zarif. It landed softly, feathers gleaming in the morning light, chest rising and falling with quiet exhilaration. I understand now, it said, voice soft and filled with awe. I do not need to control everything, nor do I need to see every step ahead. I simply need to move with awareness, to trust in the rhythm of life, and to notice every moment. Zarif nodded, a serene smile spreading across his muzzle. Exactly. Clarity comes not from force, nor from seeking, but from presence. Each wingbeat, each breath, each quiet observation is a lesson. You have learned that flying with awareness brings freedom, peace, and understanding. And from now on, every journey you take will carry this wisdom. Every flight will remind you of the calm and balance that exists within and around you. The owl sat quietly, gazing at the river as it flowed endlessly, reflecting the first rays of the sun. The valley seemed to exhale with them, the mist curling and rising, the leaves rustling softly, the water moving with gentle purpose. The owl realized that this was the first of many flights it would take with understanding and calmness, that each journey would unfold naturally if approached with patience, mindfulness, and trust. As the sun rose higher, casting golden light across the valley, the owl spread its wings once more, soaring gently above the river. This time it did not hesitate. Its movements were fluid, guided by the rhythm of the wind, the flow of the river, and the quiet wisdom of the valley. Each wingbeat was a meditation, each glide a reflection of the harmony it had discovered within itself. And so, under the soft glow of morning, with the valley bathed in light and the river singing its eternal song, the owl experienced its first flight of clarity. It understood that life's guidance is often quiet, that wisdom often comes through observation rather than instruction, and that the journey itself, when approached with awareness and calm, is the truest teacher of all.
As the morning sun climbed higher, bathing the valley in warm, golden light, the river continued its steady flow, reflecting the clouds and the soft blue of the sky. Birds sang quietly among the trees, and the gentle rustle of leaves blended with the subtle hum of the water. The owl, still perched near Zarif, felt the calm from its first flight settling deeper into its being. Each breath, each glance at the flowing river seemed to embed a sense of peace and rhythm into its heart. It was then that a new movement caught their attention. From the far side of the meadow, a hare bounded with energetic leaps, its fur a mix of soft brown and white. Its movements were fast, almost frantic, and its eyes darted around nervously, as though it feared missing something important. This hare, unlike the calm creatures of the valley, had always been in a hurry, chasing after the days as if they would escape from him. Zarif noticed the hare's anxious energy immediately. "Ah," he said quietly, "here comes a friend who is yet to learn the rhythm of patience." He tilted his head, amber eyes reflecting the sunlight. "Perhaps he will teach us a different kind of lesson today, just as much as the river or the flight of our little owl." The hare approached the river, stopping abruptly to stare at the water. "I must get ahead," it exclaimed in the small voice, trembling slightly. "There is so much to do, so much to see, so many places to reach. I cannot wait, I cannot pause." Zarif stepped closer, his tail curling around his paws. "Little one," he said gently, "why do you rush so? The river moves steadily, not in haste, and yet it reaches its destination. The stars rise and set without hurry. The trees grow without force, and the owl learns to fly with clarity, not by racing, but by observing and trusting. What do you gain by running endlessly?" The hare's ears twitched, a mixture of frustration and curiosity. "I don't know," it admitted. "I see others moving calmly, yet I feel behind. The world is moving too fast for me to keep up."
Zarif nodded slowly. "And yet, have you noticed how rushing does not bring understanding? How running ahead often leads to missing what is around you? True wisdom, little hare, comes not from the speed of your legs, but from the awareness in your heart. Every step you take, when observed and mindful, carries lessons. Every moment, when truly experienced, teaches you about patience, balance, and harmony." The hare paused, its breathing heavy from its fast journey across the meadow. It looked at the river, reflecting sunlight and swaying reeds, and the quiet majesty of the owl above. Slowly, it began to notice the small details it had always overlooked: the soft texture of the grass beneath its paws, the delicate bending of the wildflowers in the morning breeze, and the gentle ripples in the water created by the dragonflies skimming the surface. "The world is not moving faster than I am," the hare whispered to itself. "I am just too focused on moving ahead to see it." Zarif's voice was calm, blending with the hum of the valley. "Exactly. When you rush, you often miss the lessons hidden in the present. The river teaches us to flow, the owl teaches us to trust, and even the smallest ripple of wind or water carries wisdom. Observe, listen, and you will find that the journey itself is as meaningful as any destination you imagine." The hare crouched near the riverbank, watching the water carefully. It followed the gentle twists and curves, noting how the flow adapted to every stone, every fallen branch, without losing momentum. The hare understood that movement did not require force. It required awareness, patience, and the willingness to bend when necessary. Just as the river moved with grace, so too could its own steps carry harmony if approached with attention. Minutes turned into hours as the hare slowly wandered along the water's edge, learning to pace itself, to breathe deeply, and to notice the rhythm of the valley. It observed the owl circling gently in the sky, wings steady and flowing, and the calm posture of Zarif, sitting beside the river with a quiet serenity. Each of these companions carried a lesson: the owl, patience and presence; Zarif, wisdom and observation; and the river, adaptability and grace. The hare felt a shift within itself, a slowing of the restless energy that had always driven it. Each heartbeat became a reminder to be present, each step a meditation,
and each glance at the surrounding valley a reflection of the harmony that existed naturally when one allowed themselves to move with awareness. By mid-afternoon, the hare had discovered a sense of calm it had never known. It no longer felt compelled to rush, to escape, or to chase imagined deadlines. Instead, it began to move in harmony with the valley, following the curves of the river, pausing to notice the flowers and insects along the path, and breathing in the subtle fragrances of earth and blossom. It had learned, through observation and reflection, that the journey itself was its teacher, and that patience was not stagnation, but a steady, deliberate engagement with the present moment.
Zafir watched quietly, a gentle smile on his muzzle. "You see, little hare," he said softly, "speed is not the measure of life. Awareness, presence, and understanding carry far greater weight. When you move with attention and care, the world opens to you, showing lessons and wonders that are invisible to those who rush blindly." The owl, perched on a low branch nearby, nodded in quiet agreement, its wings folding gracefully. It had seen the hare's transformation and recognized in it the same principles it had learned. The power of presence, the clarity found in calmness, and the harmony that comes from moving deliberately and mindfully through life. As evening approached, the valley glowed under the warm light of the setting sun. The river sparkled like molten gold, reflecting the sky and the surrounding trees. Fireflies began to emerge, flickering softly among the reeds and flowers, adding their gentle light to the serene scene. The hare sat quietly beside Zafir and the owl, breathing in the stillness, feeling the calm rhythm of the valley seep into its very bones. It had learned its first lesson, that rushing does not lead to understanding, that patience is a strength, and that awareness of the present moment brings wisdom and peace. And as night fell, the hare, for the first time, felt a sense of harmony with the world around it. In the hidden valley, beneath the soft glow of moonlight and the twinkling of stars, the fox, the owl, and the hare rested together. The river continued its gentle flow, carrying the eternal song of patience, presence, and calm. And every being, from the smallest insect to the flowing river itself, seemed to share in the quiet revelation that life's most important lessons are found not in haste or striving, but in observation, trust, and the gentle flow of each moment. As the valley settled into the quiet calm of night, the river shimmered under the silver light of the moon. Its surface rippled gently, reflecting the stars above and the soft shadows of trees along the bank. The air was cool and fragrant, carrying the scent of wet earth, moss, and distant blooms. In this tranquil moment, the owl perched quietly on a branch, the hare rested beside Zafir, and the fox himself seemed to breathe in the rhythm of the valley, every movement deliberate, every glance filled with awareness. It was in this peaceful setting that a new presence revealed itself. From the far side of the riverbank, slowly and deliberately, emerged a turtle. Its shell was mottled with shades of deep green and brown, and its eyes held a calm, knowing gaze. Unlike the hare, who had moved with hurried energy, the turtle carried an aura of patience, a sense that every movement, no matter how small, was measured and intentional. The hare tilted its head curiously. "Who is this?" it asked. "He moves so slowly. How can he ever get anywhere?" Zarif's amber eyes glimmered softly in the moonlight.
"This is a friend who knows the value of every step," he said. "The turtle moves slowly, but every step is filled with awareness, intention, and understanding. There is wisdom in slowness, just as there is danger in haste." The turtle approached the river, its movements calm and unhurried. It paused to observe the flowing water, noting the gentle ripples and the reflections of the stars above. Its gaze was serene yet attentive, as though it could see both the present and the future simultaneously. The owl watched closely, intrigued by the quiet authority in the turtle's manner, while the hare shifted uncomfortably, still restless from its own hurried nature. Zafir spoke softly, as though telling a story to the night itself. "You see, the turtle does not rush. It does not fear the passage of time. Each step is part of the journey, and in each step lies learning. Observe carefully, and you will notice that life unfolds perfectly, not because it hurries, but because it moves with care, awareness, and intention." The hare, still restless, tried to mimic the turtle's movements, but found it difficult to remain so deliberate. Its legs twitched with impatience, and its mind wandered to the things it thought it needed to achieve. Yet, as it watched the turtle, it began to feel a subtle shift, a gentle slowing of the racing energy in its chest. It realized that even speed had its place, but balance came from combining motion with mindfulness. The owl, soaring lightly above, observed the turtle's rhythm from the air. Every wing beat mirrored the steady progression of the turtle below. The river, flowing alongside them, seemed to echo the same lesson, that patience, reflection, and awareness were the natural rhythms of life, and that every being contributed to the harmony of the valley in its own way. The turtle paused by a large stone at the river's edge. It rested its head on its front legs and closed its eyes for a brief moment, listening to the gentle murmurs of the water. "Even rest has value," Zafir said quietly. "Reflection and stillness are as important as movement. In every pause, wisdom grows, insight deepens, and understanding takes root." The owl landed gently on a nearby branch, observing the turtle with reverence. "I see now," it whispered. "The journey is not just about moving forward. It is about noticing, reflecting, and embracing every moment. The river, the owl, the hare, and the turtle, they all teach in their own way." The hare, slowly adjusting to the pace of the valley, finally approached the turtle. "May I walk with you?" it asked softly, a tone of humility in its voice. The turtle's eyes opened slowly, meeting the hare's gaze. It said, "You may," in a calm, deep voice. "But remember, little one, the path is not about speed. It is about awareness, intention, and presence. Follow gently, and you will learn more than rushing ever teaches." Together, the three creatures, hare, owl, and turtle, moved along the riverbank, guided by the quiet lessons of the valley. Each step, each breath, each glance at the flowing water became a meditation, a reflection of harmony, patience, and trust. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the meadow, painting everything in soft gold and amber. The river shimmered in response, as if affirming the lessons it had always carried in its gentle, endless flow. The night arrived again, and with it came a profound quiet. Fireflies danced among the reeds, the river whispered softly, and the moon rose, casting a silver glow across the valley. Zafir, watching the group, spoke softly. "Remember, little ones, the turtle teaches that every step matters. Every moment of attention, every deliberate action carries the weight of wisdom. Haste may move you forward, but presence and intention guide you to understanding. The owl and the hare nodded quietly, both absorbing the truth in Zarif's words. The valley itself seemed to exhale, the trees swaying gently in the breeze, the water flowing steadily, and the creatures resting with a deep sense of calm and purpose. And in this moment, the hidden valley whispered its eternal lesson, that life's wisdom is not found in haste or distraction, but in patience, observation, and mindful movement. The river, the owl, the hare, and the turtle each carried a piece of this truth, and together they created a harmony that reflected the eternal rhythm of the world.
As the moonlight shimmered across the river, the three companions rested near its edge, feeling the quiet pulse of life that surrounded them. The fox, sitting nearby, observed with pride and serenity, knowing that each lesson, each moment of presence, was a step toward understanding the deeper truths of existence. The turtle's wisdom had reminded them all that the journey is not measured in distance or speed, but in awareness, patience, and the gentle acceptance of each moment as it unfolds. And in that calm, under the silver light of the moon and the twinkling stars, the valley seemed to hum softly with the knowledge that life, in its infinite flow, carries all the lessons one needs, if only one is willing to notice. The night had grown deeper, and yet the valley did not sleep. Under the silver gaze of the moon, the river shimmered as though it carried fragments of starlight in its current. The owl perched in quiet watchfulness, the hare lay curled in the soft grass, and the turtle rested by the water's edge. Zarif, the fox, sat nearby, with his tail wrapped around his paws, eyes glimmering like amber lanterns in the dark. The air was filled with a stillness so profound that it seemed almost alive, as though the valley itself held its breath, waiting for something unseen to emerge. And then, gently, without sound, the presence of the forest spirits began to reveal itself. They appeared not as creatures of flesh and bone, but as shapes woven from moonlight and mist. Some drifted like pale ribbons of air, curling between the trees. Others shimmered like faint flames, glowing softly among the reeds. They were neither fully formed nor formless, existing in that mysterious space between dream and waking. Their presence carried no fear, only an overwhelming sense of calm and belonging, as if they had always been part of the valley, unseen but eternal. The owl's feathers ruffled, its eyes wide. "What are they?" it whispered, awe in its voice. Zarif's ears twitched as he gazed at the glowing forms. "They are the spirits of the forest," he said softly. "They are the memory of every tree, the breath of every flower, the echo of every creature that has walked here before. They are the keepers of balance, the gentle reminders that all things are connected. When the valley rests, they rise to remind us of what we often forget." The hare sat up quickly, eyes darting nervously. "Are they here to judge us?" it asked, ears trembling. The fox shook his head slowly. "No, little one. They do not judge. They only reflect. They show us what we carry within. If you are restless, you will see your restlessness in them. If you are calm, you will feel their calm. They are like the river, silent, patient, and endlessly reflective." The spirits drifted closer, their movements delicate as falling snow. One brushed past the owl's wing,
and the bird felt a sudden surge of warmth, as though the spirit carried the memory of every flight it had ever dreamed of. Another curled around the hare, and in its glow, the restless creature saw its own racing heart, but softened, slowed, like a reflection smoothed by water. A third spirit hovered near the turtle, its form steady and luminous, mirroring the turtle's deep patience and unshakable presence. The owl tilted its head, feeling the strange comfort of their touch. "They do not speak with words," it murmured, "and yet I understand them." "Yes," Zafir replied gently. "Their language is silence, and their voice is reflection. To listen to them, you must quiet the noise within and allow yourself to feel, not to analyze. They are not here to give answers, but to awaken the answers already resting in your own heart." The hare trembled, then steadied, breathing more slowly. "I see myself in them," it said softly. "All the rushing, all the worrying, it is there, reflected back at me. And yet, when I breathe, when I slow down, they change. They glow more gently. They become calm, as if waiting for me to join them." The turtle's eyes half closed, its voice deep and unhurried. This is their gift. They remind us that the world outside is always a reflection of the world inside. If we carry chaos, we see chaos. If we carry harmony, harmony reveals itself. The spirits are mirrors, nothing more, nothing less. The owl, hare, and turtle sat in stillness, each feeling the presence of the forest spirits in their own way. The valley glowed faintly under their touch, every leaf outlined with silver light, every ripple in the river carrying threads of moonlit mist. Time seemed to stretch, not forward or backward, but outward, as though past, present, and future blended into a single eternal moment of reflection. Zafir finally spoke again, his voice as soft as the breeze. "The spirits remind us of the great teaching, that harmony begins within. You may chase it outside, in rivers or forests, in stars or companions, but until you cultivate it in your heart, the world will always appear restless. When you carry peace inside, even storms will feel like whispers, and when you carry love, even shadows will glow with light."
The owl closed its eyes, feeling the truth of these words ripple through its chest like the flow of the river. The hare lowered its ears, resting against the earth, feeling its own heartbeat sync with the quiet rhythm of the valley. The turtle remained still, as though it had always known this truth, simply waiting for others to discover it too. The spirits began to rise, drifting upward toward the treetops, their forms dissolving slowly into the night sky. They blended with the stars, as though returning to the place from which they had come. The valley grew quieter still, as if exhaling after a long, patient breath. Only the river's murmur and the distant call of a night bird remained. The owl opened its eyes and whispered, "They are gone." Zafir smiled gently. "They are never gone. They live in the river's song, in the sway of the branches, in the silence of the night. You will feel them whenever you listen deeply enough, whenever you open your heart to reflection. They are not creatures of another world. They are the soul of this one." The hare lay down again, no longer trembling, but calm. The turtle settled into the earth, eyes closing slowly, knowing the night still carried endless lessons. And the owl, with wings folded, felt its heart lighter, as though it had seen something eternal that would never leave its memory. And so, under the watch of the moon and the distant glow of stars, the valley rested once again. The spirits had left their gentle reminder that peace is born in silence, that reflection reveals truth, and that harmony is never far if one only looks within. The night carried this wisdom like a lullaby, soft and unbroken, until the first signs of dawn touched the horizon. The forest had grown quieter in recent days, as if it too had entered a state of reflection. The wind no longer rushed between the trees, but moved slowly, brushing the leaves with a gentleness that reminded Zafir of a hand upon the shoulder. The river, once lively and insistent in its song, now murmured softly, carrying stories in tones so calm they could almost be mistaken for silence. Zafir walked with a steady rhythm, his paws pressing softly into the earth, leaving prints that seemed to dissolve into the moss as soon as they were made. He had journeyed long enough now to know that the path itself was not something he could control. It revealed itself only step by step, like verses of a poem recited slowly. On this particular evening, when the sky was turning from gold to deep indigo, Zafir came upon a clearing he had never seen before. At its center stood an ancient oak, so wide that 3 foxes could not have encircled it with their paws. Its bark was scarred with deep lines, as though centuries had been written into its body, and yet it radiated a kind of stillness that was neither tired nor frail, but timeless. Zafir sat quietly before the oak, unsure whether to speak or to simply listen. The forest seemed to decide for him, for in that moment the branches stirred, though there was no wind, and a voice rose like an echo from the very heart of the tree. "You have come far, little fox," said the oak, its tone both tender and vast. "Tell me, what do you carry now that you did not carry when you began?" Zafir tilted his head, reflecting. "I carry less," he said softly. "At first, I carried questions, fears, and the weight of every step. Now I carry silence, and within that silence, I feel a light I cannot see, but I know it is there." The oak's branches trembled, scattering a few leaves that glided down like blessings. "That is wisdom," it replied, "not the adding of more, but the gentle releasing of what is not needed. To travel far, one must become light." Zafir lowered his gaze, feeling both humbled and comforted. He remembered all the creatures he had met, the wise owl who spoke of patience, the river who taught him to yield, the falcon who showed him the courage of perspective. Each had left something in him, not as weight, but as space, as if they had cleared paths within his heart. The oak continued, its voice now quieter, as though speaking only to Zafir. "There will come a time soon when you will face a mirror not made of glass nor water, but of truth. When that moment arrives, do not look away, for what you see there will not harm you. It will set you free." Night descended fully then, and the clearing became a pool of shadow, with the oak at its center like a guardian of silence. Zafir curled beneath its roots, resting his head against the earth, and though the world was dark, he felt held by something greater than sight, greater even than sound, a harmony that needed no explanation. As he drifted into sleep, the oak whispered one final blessing. "Go gently, little fox. The forest will guide you as it always has." And so the night held him, cradled by the roots of wisdom, while the stars above shone as though they were keeping watch. When dawn returned, it did not come with haste. The light moved slowly, painting the forest in delicate layers of silver and gold, as though reluctant to disturb the dreams still lingering among the trees. Zafir opened his eyes beneath the great oak, feeling as if the night had washed him clean. His breath was calm, and his heart no longer hurried against his chest. He rose and looked once more at the oak, bowing his head in silent gratitude before continuing his path. The air was cool, carrying the scent of dew and wild herbs, and every step felt lighter, as if the earth itself wished to ease his journey. As he walked deeper into the forest, he came upon a stream unlike the ones he had crossed before. This stream was narrow, but clear as crystal, and the water flowed with such purity that Zafir could see smooth stones resting at its bed. Yet what drew his gaze most was not the clarity of the water, but the reflection upon its surface. When he leaned closer, expecting to see his own familiar face, he was startled. The reflection did not show the fox he thought he knew, but a figure woven of both light and shadow. The eyes that looked back at him were his, yet they held depths he had never touched. Around him shimmered images of every creature he had met on his journey: the owl, the falcon, the river, even the ancient oak. They appeared not beside him, but within him, as if they had always been there.
Zafir stepped back, unsettled yet unable to look away. The water rippled, and the voice of the stream rose, gentle yet steady. "Do not fear what you see. You are not only the fur and bone that walks this path, you are also the wisdom you have gathered, the silence you have embraced, the courage you have discovered. This is your true reflection, the mirror the oak spoke of." Zafir's heart trembled. He had always thought of himself as small, a single fox in a vast forest, searching and uncertain. Yet here, in the stream's reflection, he saw that he was more, a tapestry of moments, voices, lessons, and light. The stream continued. "Soon you will be asked to walk not only for yourself, but for others. The harmony you carry within must be shared, as a flame is shared, without ever diminishing." Zafir lowered his head, the truth sinking deep into his spirit. He understood now what the journey had been preparing him for. It was not merely to soothe his own heart, but to become a bearer of peace for those who still wandered in restlessness. He drank from the stream, the cool water filling him with clarity, and as he did, the reflections softened back into the simple face of a fox. Yet he knew the truth of what he had seen would never leave him. The day stretched on, and the forest seemed to open before him, no longer a maze of paths, but a single road that invited him forward. Birds sang softly from the branches, not as a chorus of distraction, but as a hymn of welcome. Every sound, every sight felt like part of a greater harmony that he now recognized within himself. As dusk approached, Zafir reached a hill where the trees parted to reveal a wide view of the forest. From this height, he could see valleys filled with mist, rivers winding like silver ribbons, and far in the distance, the edge of the horizon glowing as if the sun had left behind a promise. He stood there, the wind brushing his fur, and whispered to himself, "I am ready." And as night descended, the stars gathered above him, bright and countless, like watchful eyes guiding him toward the final step of his journey.
The final night of Zafir's journey was unlike any he had known before. The forest seemed to gather itself, as though every leaf, every stone, every gust of wind understood that a circle was about to close. The air was cool and fragrant, filled with the scent of pine and wildflowers, and above him the sky opened wide, overflowing with stars. Zafir walked slowly, not because he was tired, but because each step felt sacred, as if the earth itself was guiding his paws with gentle intention. He remembered the oak's words, "There will come a mirror, not made of glass nor water, but of truth." And he knew deep within that the time had arrived. At the heart of a meadow, bathed in moonlight, Zafir came upon a stone pool, perfectly still. Unlike the playful rivers or flowing streams he had crossed, this water did not move. It shone like glass, reflecting the heavens with flawless clarity. Drawn by a quiet pull, Zafir stepped closer, peering into its depths. What he saw took his breath away. This time, the reflection was not fractured or woven of symbols, it was himself, yet not the self that carried doubts and fears. The fox that gazed back at him was radiant, its amber eyes filled with calm strength, its form surrounded by a soft light that seemed to flow outward endlessly. The reflection spoke, though its lips did not move. Its voice came from within, as though it had always been part of Zafir's heart. "You have sought wisdom in trees, in rivers, in the voices of others. You listened, you carried their gifts, and you let them shape you. But now, understand this. Every voice you heard was also your own. The oak's stillness, the owl's patience, the river's surrender, the falcon's courage, they were not separate. They were echoes of the harmony already living within you." Tears welled in Zafir's eyes, not of sorrow, but of recognition. For the first time, he understood. The journey had not been to find something outside, but to awaken what had always been inside. The voice continued, "Go back to your forest, little fox. Walk among your kin, and when they are restless, let your stillness calm them. When they are afraid, let your courage steady them. When they are lost, let your silence remind them that the path reveals itself one step at a time. You are no longer only a seeker. You are now a bearer of light." The reflection faded back into still water, but the truth remained, glowing in Zafir's chest. He bowed deeply to the pool, not in worship, but in gratitude, and then turned back toward the forest that had always been his home. The journey back did not feel long. The trees welcomed him with gentle whispers, the rivers hummed their familiar songs, and the night air seemed warmer, as though embracing him. When Zafir finally stepped into the clearing where his den lay, the younger foxes of the forest gathered around him, curious. Their eyes shone with questions, the same questions he himself had once carried. Zafir did not speak many words. He simply sat among them, his presence steady, his gaze kind. And slowly, as though guided by something unseen, the forest grew quieter. The younger foxes felt a peace they could not name, as though the worries in their hearts had been gently set down. From that night forward, Zafir was no longer known as the restless wanderer, but as the fox whose silence carried wisdom, whose stillness gave comfort, and whose journey had become a story whispered beneath the stars. And whenever the wind brushed through the leaves, or the rivers sparkled under the moonlight, those who listened closely could almost hear the forest itself murmuring, "Peace is not found by seeking more, but by discovering what has always been within." Zafir lifted his amber eyes to the sky one last time before closing them in rest. The stars above shimmering like guardians, and the forest around him breathing in perfect harmony.